Love came down and the earth stood still. Love came down and the earth stood still. Shepherds stood under stormy skies, tasting grace that would change their lives. The angels trembled and the demons did too, for they knew very well what pure grace would do. Of the world and a baby boy, I remember him well, like I was there that night. My heart was there and I felt the chill. Love came down and the earth stood still. Love came down and the earth stood still. Love came down and the earth stood still.
From the silence hear the cry a newborn makes. No sweeter sound has yet been heard. Nothing now for many years, yet there he lays. This very manger holds the word. See, he eats, he sleeps, he cries, he is like us. Can you believe the face of God? Hands that held the world so small as they reach up. These are the very hands of God. He dwelt in heaven. This is the only perfect love. He who never sinned now bears its heavy weight. This is the very God of love. He dwelt in heaven.
Good morning, Foundry. We are so thrilled to have you with us and to just be together this Sunday morning. Would you stand with us? And I just want to encourage you to let the love of God this morning to just dwell so richly in your hearts that it stirs up just a joyful noise in us. And we can just sing because we're known completely, we're understood completely, and we're loved completely. And that is something to sing about. So let's sing some Christmas carols this morning.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let all their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat, repeat the sounding joy. No more let sins and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the ground. He comes to make his blessings flow, far as the curse is found, far as the curse is found, far as the curse is found. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders, wonders of his love. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, 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 and heaven and nature sing. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Lord, Shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joyous strains prolong? What the gladsome tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song? Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. See him in a manger laid, whom the choirs of angels praise. Mary, Joseph, lend your aid, while our hearts in love we raise. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Sing that again with just our voices. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo.
And you can have a seat.
Hey, and as you do, I want to say welcome and thanks for being here. My name's Scott, if we've never had the chance to meet. And for all of us, I want to point you to that QR code in the seat in front of you, or foundrybaltimore.com/connect if you are looking for a community to engage with and a group to walk with you in terms of maybe spiritual next steps you're taking. If you are new to our community in particular, I just want to throw this out there to you. 2025 will be here soon enough, and oftentimes we'll jump in with like, hey, I want to re-engage some certain things. I want to do certain things in the new year. You know, filling out that connection card now may just help you engage with us in the weeks to come. Like, because 2025 will be here soon enough, but so will life and its pressures. So if you're looking for a church community to engage with and people to walk this Jesus life out with, I want to point that to you. In the present tense, we want to be a church for the city. That's why the Foundry exists. And sometimes that means we rally around like singular service projects that have very clear and defined, like it started here, it ended here, and the mission was accomplished. Other times there's things we talk about for months at a time. They happen, and then you're like, well, then what, right? And the Christmas store is the thing you've heard us talk a lot about. And you heard us say thank you last week, but you may not have experienced or seen the impact or scope of the work. And so Lindsay Ferguson, who directs that operation and directs all of our operations here at the Foundry in that pastoral role, is here with us this morning to give us the all that is and was with Christmas Store 2024. All right, so Lindsay, if there's someone in this room that has not heard anything about Christmas Store, and they are hearing it from you first time, give them your elevator pitch, Christmas Store. Go.
Yeah, so Christmas Store exists to help parents be the heroes of their kids' Christmas. People like you guys donate brand new toys. We then start a pop-up shop in Southwest Baltimore where we sell the toys for a fraction of what they would normally cost, so that parents have the dignity and joy of being able to say, I picked this out, and I bought this with my own money. Again, making them the heroes of their kids' Christmas.
So that happened last weekend, December 13th.
2 weekends ago.
Oh, yeah, wow, okay, yeah. So that just happened, right? Like 2 weeks ago, September 13th and 14th. You may have given toys for that. You may have priced toys. You may have driven toys and just gotten one particular glimpse of the thing. Lindsay, what were the number of toys, the number of people that like participated in Christmas Store 2024?
Yeah, first off, for all of the people that did parts of those things, thank you so much for all of your help. But yeah, together we served almost 140 families. We brought in just under 1,000 toys and had a really great, fun weekend.
Awesome. You can. Yeah,
congratulations, you guys did great.
Yeah, you can clap for that. That's really good. So those are, behind every one of those families are stories. And if I said, kind of tell us the why, give us some of those interactions that maybe help us connect with why we actually do this thing. Can you maybe, of those 140 families, maybe give us a story or two that would be more specific?
Yeah, I had two in particular that I really enjoyed. There was one lady I talked to who lives in a shelter. She was like, I literally have $2. That is all that I have. But she was able to buy a toy for her daughter, where she was like, I didn't think I was going to be able to do Christmas, but my friend brought me here and I could actually buy something. Her friend even bought her something for her daughter too. So she was able to get her daughter a couple things. And then I had another lady come in and she just at the cash register was like, life is really heavy right now. It's just really, really hard. And I didn't know if I was going to have to decide between keeping the lights on at the house or buying my kids presents. But because of this, I can actually do both, which is exciting. So.
Yeah. And so like when you give to that store, when you come and price items, when you drive stuff over, that is the kind of space you're creating. Those are the why stories of why we do this thing, why we talk for months about this thing. So thank you for that space created. Thank you for making that a reality. One of the distinctives, though, about Christmas Store is that we charge for it. And there's a specific reason for that. I think there is a dignity piece to that. But one of the things that you may miss is not only is the goal of the Christmas Store to be making parents the heroes of Christmas, but also their communities. The proceeds of what they bring in and spend actually stay in the community. So Lindsay, can you talk a little bit about that and maybe even specifically who that generosity has impacted?
Yeah, we don't keep any of the funds we bring in. We use as much as we can to buy more toys. But whatever's left, we give towards organizations in Southwest Baltimore that help young people. Some people we're giving to this year are 1012 Sports and Safe Alternative Center, which are both organizations that have been in that community for a long time, pouring into kids, helping them know that they're loved and cared for, and giving them care and support and mentorship.
Yeah, what I'd love to tell families is like they literally are investing in the mentors around them. There's $2.
Not only do they help their own kids, but they help all of the kids in their community, which is powerful.
Yeah. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you on behalf of these people for coordinating those efforts, making it an easy thing for us to sign up for, find, and get to all those details as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all for all of your pieces in that. We really appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, much appreciated. Any closing words on that?
No, thank you.
All right, cool. Let me tell you where we're going. As we, 2024 has been a really, really good year. And, Christmas Store is one of those stories. Oftentimes, your inbox is already full of them, right? With these like year-end appeals, there's this thing and there's that thing, and can you help with this, and can you help with that? Just let me give you a kind of a bird's eye view of what wrapping the year well looks like at the Foundry for us. As we close 2024, the good news is, even with Christmas Store and some above and beyond initiatives, like we're on target to meet all of our operating budget goals. We're in good shape. If everything trends as it's supposed to and things like that, go like they're supposed to go, then we've had a really good, fruitful year, consistent and good soil for the generosity you've created and able to make an impact. So thank you very much for that. As we close the year, here's what it looks like. Christmas Eve, we always do a special offering. This year, the special offering will go to World Relief, who is part of being present and visible church in places where it's very, very difficult to be visible church right now, right? Think Syria, think Ukraine, think places like that. Okay, that's what World Relief does. So if you're looking for good soil for Christmas Eve, that's that. And I want to just tease something to you. In 2025, you'll hear a lot about in our church community, how do we optimize the resource that you're sitting in? We build on the foundation that you that has served South Baltimore well for 140 years and say, how do we continue on to let this facility be a blessing to the community? As you can imagine, when you look around, there are things that we want to strategically think to how to improve and fix and care for, because as it turns out, 140-year-old buildings need care, right? So in 2025, we are undergoing this process as a church where we're going to pray and ask God and sort of plan the future. In the short term, there's certain things that will not wait. A ceiling. All right, which sustained some damage because of the tropical storm and exacerbated a thing that we were getting to and planning for 2025. So want to just let you know, as we end the year well, any above and beyond that comes in 2024 is sort of the seed money for the rainy day fund that's going to address the ceiling and any other capital nonsense that raises up. Boiler scares at all, okay? So you'll get an email about that tomorrow, and if that's white noise for 25 other things, then tune it out. But if you're looking for a place to be generous, then certainly we'd be honored if you participated with us in one of those ways, all right? I'll be curbside if you want to chat about those things, if you need the longer pitch on any of that. But as we aim to be people of love, we do so in a place and a time that's heavy and hard. And it's that kind of mode and mindset that is going to be reflected here in the scripture from Matthew chapter 2. My friend Andy is going to read that for us as we light the Advent candles.
Good morning. Matthew chapter 2, verse 13 through 23. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and they left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time that he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene.
Well, yesterday was the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice. And some of you may be just acutely aware of that in the sense that you leave in the morning and it's dark on your way to work, and you return from work and it's dark again. And perhaps you know somebody for whom the lack of vitamin D is quite troubling. You know, the lack of light, the lack of sun is a hallmark of living where you live and experiencing winter solstice for what it is. Now, I think it's also reflective of something that may be true in your existential reality. That it may feel in your life that darkness is reigning. Like the circumstances of your story, the things that you're going through, the questions you have, it just may be such that it feels like darkness is prevailing. And in this time of year, Advent is not suck it up, buttercup, have some Christmas cheer, get over it. Advent acknowledges that tension. Advent acknowledges the tension that darkness feels as if it's prevailing, but light will break through. That every day going forward, right now, there is a little more light. Light is going to arrive. Advent aims to participate in that same way. To think well about how hope and peace and joy and love can be present in a context like the one Andy just read. When the circumstances don't feel Christmassy, the circumstances don't feel loving, and people in front of you stand up and go, but love and light has come. And you go, yeah, but come on, man. Advent acknowledges the tragic gap. The tragic gap between what, as followers of Jesus, we believe will be, and what is. In your story, around your story right now. This series that we've been in called The Ghosts of Christmas has been an aim to have a little bit of fun with a Christmas classic and Charles Dickens as A Christmas Carol, but also just to acknowledge how that Scrooge story is also yours. That the past has the ability to rob you of the ability to be present in this moment, living out hope and peace and joy and love. And this year, the circumstances may find themselves more challenging than in Christmas years past. Or perhaps there's a paralysis as it relates to the future. And rather than hope and peace and joy and love, you just feel fear. And the desire to grip things more tightly and control the circumstances to the best of your ability, keeping the plate spinning. So in the text that we read, we do not read a very Christmassy text. We read about how Herod the Great's political paranoia is more than just bluster and tweets. It is like moving the course of action and harm. We learn that Mary and Joseph, who have already been displaced and have already endured weirdness in the gestation period that they've been on, are now again going to be displaced. And that there's going to be real harm, real consequences, really rough, terrible stuff that happens in Bethlehem as a consequence of the paranoia of Herod and the clinging to control and the presence of Mary and Joseph and ultimately Jesus. It's a text that if you're here and you thought you were coming to sort of a diet Christmas Eve service, because it's not Christmas Eve, but it's almost Christmas Eve, you go, that was the reading. Okay. But what do we do when the circumstances of our reality, when our Christmases don't feel so Christmassy? I mean, that really is the essence. When the darkness of the solstice feels like not just a metaphor, not just your reality, but physically, but a metaphor for the reality of your lives. How might this text show us where love is to be found, where love is to be rejected, and then how we might walk in that as God's people? That's what we want to ask ourselves in these few minutes that we have together this morning. The reality of the light of God's love is present in the text because it reminds us that despite the circumstances, despite the darkness of Herod, the light of God's love is breaking through. So we just finished the second chapter of Matthew. Matthew writes initially to an audience that is Jewish. He wants you, but ultimately his original audience, to understand something. That Jesus is the continuation, that the silence is broken, that the one who is come to bring restoration has arrived, And that all these things that were like talked about before are now in motion. So he draws a parallel that may not be like aware to you, but if you are a Jewish reader of this text in the first century, you're like, I see it. And that is that Jesus is a better Moses. That Jesus is built on the continuation of Moses and is coming to fulfill the thing Moses couldn't do. Think about it for a second. Both endured displacement by tyrants or the oppression of tyrants. Both had lives that were misunderstood, enduring disruption. Both are instruments of God's deliverance. Just as Moses delivered Israel from slavery, Jesus delivers humanity from sin and darkness. If you followed with us during the Sermon on the Mount series, which comes from Matthew 5-7, one of the things we kept referring back to, probably to the point where you were annoyed by it, was that Jesus says, not that I've come to abolish everything that's happened, but that I am the fulfillment of this thing that Moses taught you all about. Matthew wants it to ring loud and clear to the Jewish hearer. Jesus is the fulfillment of this thing. The light of God's love has broken into the darkness. In the pitch black room, the candle has been found. The flashlight has been discovered. We got it. The light of God's love is here. But man, oh man, there is still darkness. Matthew wants us to see what we've said a couple times in this Advent series, that the Christmas story is not an isolated thing, disengaged from the rest of the Bible. Oh, it's a warm mythology of warmth and good tidings and cheer, and that may be how you receive it. But that's not what the gospel writers intend. They're not intending to say to you, good advice has come for your solstice. They're saying good news has broken through into the darkness. Even though the circumstances feel pretty dark and a little bit scary. And what we see in Herod is a doubling down of what the false pictures of love can do, like to cling to control, right? You have in one sense Jesus' self-giving love playing out and being protected in the early stages of the gospel account, what we have in Herod is a lashing out, a doubling down of what happens when you try to take love and acclaim and power and all of those things and put them into your own hands. It hurts you, and it hurts a lot of other people. If you're unaware, Herod gets into power initially by being in cahoots and using his politics to his advantage to acquire Mark Antony's army and come into Jerusalem to begin with, creating the illusion that he is a bit of a chosen one, the king of the Jews. He stays in power by killing everyone in the previous dynasty, the Hasmonean dynasty. He has 3 wives killed, at least 1 son, and plenty of political rivals in this process. You can read all about those in the works of Josephus. And then he moves to sort of stay in power in a way that's marked by paranoia, hyperreactivity. There's a spy network in the first century that Josephus talks about, trying to where are the threats to keeping that power at play? What you hear in this particular text is an account that church tradition calls the massacre of the innocents. Right? If you follow maybe some more liturgical traditions, that's what this particular text is called. And it's often connected to the Christmas story because the implications for the Christmas story are clear. Like, there's an attempt to snuff out the life of Jesus, the Messiah. Josephus, for all of his places where he loves to talk about how terrible Herod the Great is, doesn't mention it. The massacre of the innocents is not found in Antiquities, which is one of the preeminent source materials for where we learn at this time. So the question is this just a thing Matthew made up? Is this just a thing that Matthew knew about that nobody else knows about? What we can think about here really quickly is that while Herod, in this particular account, isn't reflected upon in Josephus, we can see, first of all, there's a consistency of character. that this is the kind of thing Herod has done and aims to do. We have to consider that Josephus writes to predominantly a Greco-Roman audience, and if you grew up learning about ancient Sparta, ancient Spartans do not care about, like, infanticide. It's not shocking to them. What's more shocking is some of the things that maybe go on in the particular realms of Herod the Great's palace. It could be Bethlehem. The projected population in the first century is about 300. So though some of your traditions may talk about the massacre of the innocents being in the 5-digit range in terms of the number of people killed or impacted, archaeologically and historically, we're probably talking about maybe less than 10 families. But we have to be careful with that, don't we? Because in our age, when we ourselves become so desensitized to violence, when we talk about things like mass shootings, and we go, oh, thank God, only 2 people, only 1 person, we have to recall that those are, A, people made in God's image, and also, B, someone's son or daughter that's not coming home for Christmas. I say this because it is important, I think, for the credibility of the Bible to know that intersection of history, but to also point out that as whatever happens here, however it plays out, it doesn't stop the thing from happening that Matthew talks about. Mary and Joseph flee with Jesus. They get away. Herod the Great continues his empire of paranoia, but ultimately he will be dead within 2 years. He gets a terrible illness. He suffers greatly in that illness to some degree that suggests that he begs for his life to be taken. Some traditions suggest he takes his own life. He becomes a footnote to the story. And the detail Andy read to you about Archelaus coming into power is substantive in this. One, because it points to another Old Testament prophecy that talks about Jesus being raised in Nazareth, but also because it points to the idea that within 2 or 3 years, Herods are gone. Within this particular Herod's gone, and it's not long before the Herod line doesn't last. Archelaus is going to be a short-lived placeholder. It's his son. And basically what we're going to find out pretty quickly is that the son doesn't have the father's ability to stay in Rome's good graces. So Rome will depose him to Gaul within 2 years of him taking the reins. And while the Herod line continues on a little bit longer, it's not long before it's a footnote, right? We don't talk about that line much anymore. So why do I mention this? Why is the history important? Well, I think it's good for the integrity and credibility of the scriptures, but also to see Herod is a guy that does what we said last week, what a lot of us try to do. Let's force the issue. Let's control the circumstances. Let's spin the affection in a way that makes ourselves look favorable, and we can make that work for a while. But it comes at a cost. Cost to ourselves, to be sure, but in this particular passage, a great deal of pain to however many families are impacted by his tyranny. The illusion, the story we tell ourselves that it's a harmless thing, it's the cost of doing business, but it is a false picture of love. And this moment that Herod the Great has is what Ebenezer Scrooge in Charles Dickens' tale gets a second lease on life for, right? He gets to see advance that, oh, this is what's going to happen, and he gets to decide. I don't want to live this way. I'm not going to keep on keeping on. If you go back to the text, if you go back to Scrooge's experience in the Dickensian classic Christmas Carol, you get to this moment that is described this way. It's one of those things that's sort of captured in the Muppet Christmas Carol. It's captured in other expressions of it, but it's not read in print in the same manner. Catch this. as he's going around and he's beginning to like get the turkey and send it to the Cratchits and make these bold declarations, here's what the days look like for Ebenezer Scrooge. This is from Charles Dickens. He says, some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh and little heeded them. For he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good at which some people did not have their fill of laughter at the outset. And knowing that such as these would be blind anyway, he thought it quite well that they should wrinkle up their eyes and grins and have the malady in less attractive forms. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. Scrooge is doing all of the things that he's got to do to like cherish Christmas in his heart and honor it forever in the context of people going, you idiot. You walked away from all of it. The same people that can't stand him and make fun of him are in the Dickens classic also making fun of how enthusiastic this change of perspective is in him. And he has to come to the conclusion that this light, this way, is in fact a better way to live when the circumstances of others make it feel like that may not be true. And doesn't that describe what our picture of love looks like? Trying to carry this out in the busyness of your family, in the travels of this season, in the thing that you're dreading, in the news event that you don't want to hear anything more about. Minding the tragic gap between the transformation that we believe will happen if we put our trust in these things and walking away from lesser pictures of love. Pictures of love that say, well, if everybody just likes you around you and thinks you're the cat's pajamas, then you're okay. Or if you just have someone, you'll be someone. Or if you can just push through until that next promotion, then you will finally slow down. Minding the gap in the here and now calls us to reject lesser pictures of love that look more like Herod's reign than we want to admit, and to invite this picture of love into our story. So what does that look like in the few minutes that I have? One is that we see it in the text, and we see it in the other Christmas accounts, that we marvel at the picture of God's love. Like the profound mystery of the incarnation, God with flesh coming into our midst, is that God would be willing to be vulnerable and small enough that a dictator has the power to stamp him out. God's willingness to move into that kind of vulnerability speaks to the context and power of God's love. That God wants to be approachable for you, to you. The Palestinian author and thinker Rula Wishmawi says this: it's remarkable that God chose to reveal himself to humanity, yes, through the incarnation. Yet what is even more astonishing, it's that the infinite chose to dwell in the hearts of limited human beings. Which again, as I just said, includes being small and vulnerable enough that a dictator being paranoid is at least in a moment of time threatening to this little one. Do we marvel at the profoundness of this invitation? Many of us have had many Christmases where we've sat in services and we've sung songs about the joy of the Lord and earth receiving her King. The profound mystery that I hope meets you with a fresh perspective this year is that the infinite has moved into your finite space. Desires relationship with you, desires to walk with you. And if you really lived like that was a real thing, it's likely that you would live differently in at least some area of your story. It may be an area where you walk with a greater courage. There may be an area where you walk with a greater comfort as a result of that reality being true. But it would also call us to labor for love. Mary and Joseph labor for love. Obviously, to labor for love in the context of birthing a child, that's a full body workout, or so I've observed. But there really is more to the story than the physical toll in Mary's body, right? There is the constant early stages of whispers and scorns and mystery. But then maybe, as in a lot of your lives, going, well, when we just get to Christmas, it'll all chill out. Not when Herod be Heroding. No, it's disruption. It's more disruption. We got to Bethlehem and we had to figure out where to stay and how to birth a child in a weird circumstance. Okay, we're going to settle in here. These are good people. There's family here. There's people here. Nope. We're going 90 miles west to Egypt to raise our child in a place where we weren't planning on raising our child. Some traditions suggest the gold, the frankincense, and myrrh pay for the trip and fund the mission. I don't have source material for that. But you can imagine that disruption. You get it, right? Like, you don't have to have kids to get that. Like, okay, I think we've arrived. Nope. Here is more disruption. The labor of love in the case of Mary and Joseph is keeping the mission central when all they know is perpetual disruption. How about for you? How about for you to live in the tension of perpetual disruption, to live in the tension of saying, hey, I will choose to love when the circumstances surrounding love being easy are not right out of a Hallmark movie. When they're not right out of some serendipitous, well, it was all meant to be. He was a prince all along. It's challenging to do, but it is where we see love in this text. It's not a text that reeks of loving, but God's love is all over it. A parent's love is all over this text. And then the love of neighbor is a part of this story as well, right? As we deal with our own Egypts, there are other people dealing with their Bethlehems. A thing that we don't get from Matthew's account is how they would have processed or when they would have found out that something tragic has happened in Bethlehem. You may have encountered some telling of such a story, but imagine for a minute, in a town of 300, everybody knows everybody, right? Like, you wear a different color shirt than you normally wear, and everyone's like, who does he think he is? That's the essence of living in a small town. It's probably quite possible. And I just want you, this is extra biblical, but this is in the text, right? That some of the people that maybe helped get Mary and Joseph out, had play dates, are some of the people who lost children in the wake of Herod. And as Mary and Joseph, how do you live displaced, holding those people in your heart, knowing you can't go back to that place? You got to go to Nazareth. Because you're dealing with Archelaus now, and he's worse than his previous guy, with none of the benefits of Herod the Great. So you're dealing with displacement in the context of a place where people you know and love are dealing with prevailing oppression. It's a weird thing to carry, right? That is part of the love of God's people in Christmas seasons, right? To deal with our own disruption, but to keep in mind those who are in Bethlehem. To those who are dealing with the oppression of others, right? There's a deep cut, Christmas song deep cut that shows up on some of your albums, particularly for those that are not written for the pop audience. It's a song called Coventry Carol. You heard that one? It's a warm ditty about the massacre of the innocents. It was written and put into song in the 1500s as part of Christmas pageantry in towns like Coventry, England, who were putting on stage productions of the Christmas pageant to tell the story that I'm telling you today. It became sort of an English deep cut that was rediscovered in 1940. What was happening in England in 1940? the Germans. The Germans were happening in 1940, and in 1940, Coventry was destroyed by the Luftwaffe to such a degree that in German slang, at the time, we Coventry'd it, was a way to speak to the depth of the desolation and despair that we wreaked upon a city. There's nothing left. 43,000 homes, including the Church of St. Michael's, which was built in medieval times, were destroyed. Central markets, central library, hundreds of shops, public buildings, a third of the city's factories, 600 people, and about 1,000 others injured. The reason why Coventry Carol shows up in your Pentatonics album is because in 1940, to try and create a moment to remember those who are being impacted by war, the BBC did a concert from the rubble of the Coventry St. Michael's Church. And they sang this song about the massacre of the innocents that was written in the 15th century as a way to remember those who were suffering around us. It's a way to say, you may be in Egypt, but others are in Bethlehem. And we have to remember them. And we have to think of them, and we have to care for them in a place and time like this. The Love Sunday of Advent reminds us that God's love has stepped into our Egypt, and we have to do our part to stoke and keep that, and it's a labor to do that, to keep that in front of us and honor it all the year. But it's also a thing, particularly in an age of social media, particularly in an age of the internet, when we know everything happening in the world, to keep ourselves aware of the places and spaces where the love of God is meeting people who are experiencing a great deal of harm, right? And, so initiatives like the Christmas store help us do that in Baltimore. But of course we know, because those of you who are in healthcare and those of you who are in social work and those of you who are teachers know that work continues in Baltimore. That work meets us in Baltimore, but extends to places like Wisconsin, where there are families that are mourning the reality that they've bought gifts for a child who went to school one day and didn't come home. Or that in America, there's 390,000 families since Columbine that have been impacted directly and indirectly by the reality of school violence. That people that are going to German Christmas markets can experience something that's not very Christmassy at all as an act of terrorism. Or that in places like Syria, or literally in Bethlehem today, if Christ was born in Bethlehem today, it would be amongst the rubble of war and bombs. I don't say this to depress you, but to say, as God's people, one of the incarnational realities is that as God's love has moved towards us, our love moves towards those that we're caring for in Egypt, but those who are in Bethlehems of literal and figurative sense. And how do we as a church live into that reality and hold space for it? Charles Dickens said this about his work. He said, I've endeavored in this ghostly little book to raise the ghost of an idea, which shall not put my readers out of humor with themselves, with each other, with the season, or with me. May it haunt their houses pleasantly. The text this morning is not a pleasant text. But if you look closely and you pull the camera back at what is ushering in the kingdom as you turn the pages to the public ministry of Jesus, you will see the pleasant haunting of the incarnation. that the love of God has broken into the dead spaces where people had given up and lost hope. That the love of God has shown up in places where everyone was like, good stuff doesn't happen there. And that the ministry of Jesus meets and cares for the people that others seem to have forgotten and left behind, which may be you or a thing you care about. My prayer this morning is that communion is a tangible reflection of what Dickens called the pleasant haunting. That you don't just receive communion as like the ghost of an idea. Love has conquered all. Light has conquered darkness. But as an incarnational reality. Christ took on flesh and moved near your mess. Christ demonstrated a better way to live than the Herod way. And moved near you, despite the shame of the past, the entitlement of the present, or the fear of the future. May you receive that as good news this morning as you move to one of our first stations and receive bread and cup and take it back to your seat. And may it haunt you pleasantly as we leave this room aiming to see the light of God break into our darkness. Let's partake together.
As you move about the room and get the blood flowing, maybe you realize again that like as physical, material beings, like flesh and bone, that we have this, still have this sense of the immaterial. It's what we keep saying when we're talking about being haunted, that the season feels haunted, or that pleasant haunting that Scott was talking about. Even though we're flesh and blood and bone, we have this sense that there's something else. So as we sing these words over you, I'll just ask you to meditate on that thought of what it is in this season that might be right beside you that you may not have perceived.
Hold beside you now. Emmanuel, love will find you. So hold on, love will find you. Hold on, he's right beside you now. Emmanuel, love has found us.
Would you stand with us as we sing about this love and what it does to us, how it changes us?
You heard the cry of our hearts, and you came down. Freely you gave us your love, showing us how. Make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me show love. Where there is darkness, let me shine light. And may your love cause us to open up, cause us to open up our hearts. May your light cause us to shine so bright that we bring hope into the dark. All that we do without love, it means nothing. Grant us the courage to give. As you're calling, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me show love. Where there is darkness, let me shine light. And may your love cause us to open up, cause us to open up our hearts. May your light cause us to shine so bright that we bring hope into
Amen. You can have a seat.
Come, thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free from our fears and sins. Release us, let us find our rest in thee. Our rest in thee. Born thy people to deliver, born a child and yet a king, born to reign in us forever. Now thy gracious kingdom bring. Come, thou long expected Jesus. Come, thou long expected Jesus.
So that is what all of this is moving towards, this celebration, this season of Advent where we're hoping and longing and waiting, and then we get to celebrate together just as a church family, the celebration of the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus, that love has come into the world and has found us. I just want to encourage you, there might be somebody in your life that doesn't have a place to go on Christmas Eve, or would just never even think that this would be a place where they would be welcome and wanted. And I want to encourage you to just invite them to Christmas Eve. Even if they can't make it, just that one step of making that invitation can make someone feel so seen in your life, and it might start just a new relationship. So I want to encourage you to do that. Our services are on Christmas Eve at 5 and 6:30. There are little cards down in the lobby that you can give out. It just makes it easy. You know, it's a beautiful card, and you just give that to someone, and it'll make them feel again, welcome and wanted in this place. I just want to pray a blessing over us. I'm going to read it over us, and when we close, we're just going to walk out into our week. And I encourage you, try to slow down this week. It's so hard. There's so much left to do, but try to slow down and let love find you. A blessing for open arms. Blessed are you with open arms to welcome God this Advent, willing to invite its promises into the center of your longing. Blessed are you, even now in the waiting, open to receiving what is beautiful, though clothed in such precarity. Blessed are you, agreeing to stand still long enough to let your eyes adjust to the darkness until the starlight begins to appear, the dawning of God's promises. In that gentle light, Find a corner of your heart where hope can stay protected, a place from which we can nurture a little gratitude, a little compassion, enough to go around. Some for God and some for yourself, and some for the next unsuspecting soul that wanders into your light. Amen. Be blessed, and we hope to see you here on Christmas Eve.
Day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men, of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair, I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then peal the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor does he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day. A voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Winter's calling, nowhere to hide. Branches barren, all in the light. Feeling fragile, words don't suffice. Longing, waiting, all through the night. He's knocking on your door in the quiet. Love is born. Comfort and joy to the one he came for. Comfort and joy to your heart. Comfort and joy to the one he came for. Comfort and joy to your heart. He's knocking on your door in the quiet. Love is born.
catching every tear from your eye, holding your hand, friend by your side. He's knocking on your door. In your longing, love is born. Comfort and joy to the one he came for. Comfort and joy to your heart. Comfort and joy.